Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, Zinger Nation. Welcome back to another episode of Benzinga Live. And so far, headlines have just not stopped coming in 2024. Been a busy couple weeks so far to start the year in terms of market moving headlines. Of course, this week, airlines in the news after this almost catastrophic piece of panel flew off of an Alaskan airline flight. Boeing closed down more than 8% yesterday. While Boeing was closing down 8%, Nvidia was making new all-time highs. Bitcoin hit new 52-week highs as traders anticipate this ETF approval. And it goes to show you that it's important to keep track of what's going on out there. It's important to always understand, how to stay up with the news. And if you're not doing that as an active trader, you could fall behind. We're going to talk about, some of that and more today. Of course, this is going to be episode 7 of our Kaiju educational series. I'm going to be joined by Ryan Pannell. It's been a few weeks since we've had one of these, so I'm super excited to have Ryan back on the show. Always great to get his expertise. And I'm ready for it. So let's just go ahead and get into it. When I bring Ryan back on, we're going to be talking all about stock analysis, how AI can help you. AI, story of the year last year. And it's important, though, to know how you can really use it and how not to use it, especially when it comes to your hard-earned money and your stock portfolio. So again, excited to have Ryan on. Let's go ahead and roll that intro and we come back. Ryan Pannell and AB. What is up, Zinger Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Benzinga Live. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Alrighty, Ryan, welcome back to a Benzinga Live. Hope you had a good New Year, good holiday break and everything. And it's good to see your face back on here again.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I think everyone appreciated the break from my weekly ramblings, but hopefully we can add a couple more episodes, a little bit of value here for everybody. And it's always good to catch up with you, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, so let's discuss real quick, Ryan, kind of where we left off in this educational series, where we're at now, and where are we headed?
Well, I mean, that's a lot to cover. That's like 6 episodes. I think we started with...
Give me the Spark Notes.
We started with like broker selection, what type of account to open. We talked about tools. We talked about technical analysis. We talked about risk management. We talked about entering and exiting trades, tools to do that. And then now today, I think we're all the way up to news with respect to stock analysis and where do you find stocks to trade and what news is relevant and what news is noise and all that good stuff.
100%. And that's, we were talking about, or when I started the show, talking about, these crazy headlines. And it's important with all the headlines to know what's just noise, what are the things you really should be paying attention to. So let's get right into it, Ryan. Let's talk information and analysis. How do you go about actually selecting the stocks you're interested in? And what kind of information are you looking for?
I think it depends on what kind of investor or trader the person is who's doing the analysis, right? If it's systematic or quantitative or technical, then you're probably less concerned with headline news, corporate actions, corporate news, etc. You're looking for specific patterns that you've identified previously as being profitable. So systematic is, there's no yes or no, or maybe kind of sort of with systematic trading. It's like a series of criteria that gives you a score at the end of the day. If the score is above X, trade. If it's below X, then you don't trade and you just move on to the next stock. You don't look for reasons to support it or not support it. So like the most mathematical, that quantitative. Technical trading, I think there's sometimes a misconception that technical trading is just technical, that nobody cares about earnings or news or whatever, which isn't exactly true. You're using technical signals and patterns to alert you that there might be something advantageous or disadvantageous about to happen. And then you're going to go deeper, depending on what type of trader you are. You can be like a technical position trader. So 3-6 months out, probably that trader, after doing solid technical analysis, is doing a deep dive into some more news, etc. Whereas like a momentum or swing trader is looking for news only as it relates to confirmation or a potential roadblock that could lead to a whipsaw reversal, and that's it. Like they're there for like 3 to 8 days. Let's go, and just moving on. So I know everyone hates the "it depends" answer, but yeah, it depends, which wouldn't surprise like anyone in this chat or watching this show.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, I think that's a great point, because a lot of times people, and you'll see this from like the gurus on Twitter and other places, they try to act like there's one set of rule or one thing that works for all traders. But let's face it, we're gonna have different goals and we're gonna have different capabilities. Some people might be, able to look at their screen all throughout the day. Some people might be going to work and they gotta, maybe do a couple swing trades a month and they're not able to day trade and all this stuff. So you really need to figure out what's your style, what works best for you. And then Ryan, what tools are out there? I mean, we hear a lot about, the Bloomberg terminal, of course. Is it just Bloomberg or bust? Are there any free sources instead of having to pay, 25 grand for a seat or whatever on the terminal? And how reliable are they?
A lot to unpack in that one lengthy, endless question there, Aaron. But is it just Bloomberg or bust? No. I mean, Bloomberg is not the gold standard of information. At least that's not my experience. As I've said before on the show, yeah, fine, we all use Bloomberg here, but we also use Benzinga. Honestly, I'm not just saying that because I'm on your show. You're looking for confirmation of news that leaks out. And if it just appears in one platform or one area, now if it's Benzinga, if it's Bloomberg, you can have relative certainty that somebody has vetted that at the news desk before it's been pumped into the news feed. And quick action can result in a little bit of extra profit or the only profit on the day. That's totally possible. But you don't need a paid source. Is there free? Yeah, sure. But you're looking at the credibility of the source and the identification of the source, right? Like if it's an anonymous person in a Reddit forum, if it's an anonymous Twitter account, I would be heavily skeptical unless you know who that person is. Like, Open Outcrier is a well-known options trader that uses that handle on Twitter. I'm dating myself there. I guess it's called X now. People know who that is that are options traders. Anyone who doesn't know who that is wouldn't know that person, but they're an industry professional. If you can't identify the source, then the jeopardy that person is under in terms of market manipulation is very, very low. So whether it's AI, whether it's a bot, whether it's a malicious actor, it's hard to determine, tell, and vet the source. So I'd be heavily skeptical. Like a company's CEO or a public figure, not that they don't make mistakes, but you make a statement about company fundamentals, you make a statement about confidence in a stock's directionality, and you are found to have manipulated the market, like you are in serious trouble. So news releases, even free sources, Yahoo Finance or something like that, or Low Pay, which would be any sort of mainstream publication, Financial Times, Wall Street Journal, both have alerts, both have an aggregated news feed, PR Newswire, AP, whatever it is. Like before it hits these feeds, that news is getting verified. It's not to say that it's not wrong. It's that if it is wrong or worse, misleading, there's significant jeopardy behind it. So it doesn't have to be paid. You just have to do more heavy lifting yourself, running down the verification of this information than you would if you subscribe to an aggregator. Money.net, let's do three. Money.net, Benzinga, Bloomberg, probably, low to high in that order.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate, Benzinga Pro, I think for a lot of traders, I think, Bloomberg is that like coveted, what people hear about, what they might see in like the Wall Street movies or whatever. But for most retail investors, which I am, Benzinga Pro really does fit a lot of your needs. I'll just pull it up real quick because we're talking about it. So say you're looking at NVIDIA stock here. You have the overview. If you want to go into a more detailed view of the chart, you can go through here and go to all the different time frames: daily, weekly, monthly, hours, minutes. The news feed, which is what a lot of people use Benzinga Pro for, is actually super quick. And like you said, Ryan, sometimes, not all the time, not most of the time, but sometimes you'll actually see something come through on Benzinga's wire before Bloomberg. And then, of course, too, I usually just hang out on this overview page a lot of the times because you can see, the chart and all this fundamental data, market cap, PE, all the good stuff here. So again, for most traders, and it depends on what you need, but for most traders, I think Benzinga Pro does fit, those needs pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, to your earlier point, we run both feeds side by side. I would say 98% of the time, news shows up in both feeds simultaneously. 2% of the time, sometimes Bloomberg has it first, but sometimes Benzinga does have it first. I mean, if Benzinga didn't have it first, we wouldn't run it, honestly. Already being a heavy Bloomberg user, we just stick to that. There's a reason that we use Benzinga side by side. Bloomberg doesn't always have everything, and it's important to remember that it's skewed towards the institutional investor, fund manager, etc. So, there's millions of headlines a day from all over the world. Which ones are trickling to the top? Which ones are sort of marked as being market moving on Bloomberg are not the same things as what shows up on Benzinga. You'll be able to find both. Right? The stories will hit both, but that sort of top 100 aggregated news feed is very, very different on Bloomberg than it is on Benzinga. On Benzinga, it tends to be skewed more towards, anything huge and global, obviously, but stock specific, right? There are a lot of short-term traders who use Benzinga Pro, and they're looking for actionable signals, news, etc., in the moment. On Bloomberg, it's really more around global market participants, global macro, etc., like where are interest rates shifting in Germany. Like this in a huge and diversified portfolio is more important than, NVIDIA's run this morning, for example. I mean, that will show up in the same feed, but that's one stock out of 972 positions in just one of the portfolios that we run. So yeah, it's important we pay attention to it, but that's not as important as some of these news items, which aren't important if you're a discrete stock trader. So that's where, as I've said before, I hope people don't think that they're missing out by not having a Bloomberg. It's really, it wouldn't make you a more profitable or a better trader or investor, at the average level for sure. You don't need it. It's not designed for that.
Well, let's while we're talking about Bloomberg, I do want to hear a little bit more about it. I'm not on the terminal. You are. Let's give us some of like the inside ball and what it's like and what we're looking at here. I'll go ahead and pull up a slide of one of your home pages.
Right. So for daily news, like this is my daily view in term. I have three 30-inch layouts that I'm looking at, and they're 6K layouts. So, apologies if the font is super small. It's not as small in front of me. And this would be my, as I'm doing something else, email, Zoom meetings, talking to you here, it's right there. This is what's up generally. And so this is giving me kind of a global picture of what's going in areas that tell me where I need to better focus. So it's important to remember that like the visual cues of just like line charts are useless for any kind of technical analysis. Like all this stuff on the whole right-hand side is pointless for any kind of actual analysis. What's that useful for? When everything drops in a geographic region, Europe, I've got, all of the major European indexes. I've got the Asian indexes. I have domestic indexes. When suddenly things move in harmony, it's a visual cue that my attention needs to shift to something. Something's happened to make everything move in unison. So then my eyes would go from there. I obviously have flow underneath. I use index ETFs for at the top there for domestic markets, just because I can better see flow, and that helps me with some of my analysis. But that sort of unification of behavior tells me I need to look to the left-hand side of that screen, which is where I have like aggregated news feeds, and I can see which industries, like you have sell up and sell down industries there in that sort of center column. And that's going to tell me like suddenly if that lights up, hot green, hot red, heat map style, the two together, I could be talking to someone, having a meeting, half paying attention from, I don't know, I'm 2 feet away from that screen. And I know that I need to look at something if that dramatically changes. Honestly, the Sky News or Bloomberg TV that's in the upper left-hand corner, that's like that got programmed in by our rep, and it's on mute basically all the time. I will turn it on if there's like a breaking, news item. Biden walks out and he's about to make a live speech on XYZ and it's fundamentally important. Or when the Fed speaks, obviously I will turn that on right there. And then the map actually is a cool function that allows you to select a tracking metric, and the map will highlight activity. And it's everything from shipping distribution. It's kind of on the left there underneath the TV. That guy, yeah, you can do forest fires, you can do earthquakes, you can do whatever it is, and it will show you globally distributed, like where concentrations are in something. So Bloomberg's not the only thing that does this, but it's useful in that I'm doing something else. I need to be present. I need to kind of have my eye on the portfolio, but I don't need to look at every tick of every stock that we hold or trade. So I'm looking at this. That's that. And it's different from a screen that I might use for news on a specific security. So if something, which is the next screen, and if something pops up in that aggregated news feed that catches my attention, or I get a message from our traders, then yeah, it'll pop up in one of those two windows there. Or there's something that goes, hot red or hot green that I can click on, or the trade desk will ping me on Messenger and say, hey, can you have a quick look at XYZ? Then I pull up the next screen, which is for the discrete. So yeah, it's this one. And we've talked before about the middle part of the screen. I'm not going to deal with that on this episode because that's just technical analysis. But it's the right side of that screen. Kind of tells me at that underlying level what I might be interested in paying more attention to. So there's comps. There's a comp panel that shows me the closest beta aligned comps and how they're doing. There's news specific to just that stock. There's specific corporate action activity. There's earnings activity. There are projections. So it's like the global version, but immediately targeted to just that security and the ones that are really close to it. I mean, at the bottom, there's on the left as well, there's even like flow identification and trying to figure out where the axe is on that day, which is the heaviest exchange for printing that stock on that day. So I think Benzinga Pro and a number of other retail accessible products have these types of panels that you can consider. So I do sort of the stock analysis or company analysis all on the one page. There are tabs there. You can see I can get through to the tear sheets and company fundamentals as well on the right-hand side. And if that was trading, there'd be order flow on the left-hand side. So it's like my command console. It's everything that's salient visually immediately with that particular underlying, and then layers underneath that. So, I wonder what their revenue was quarter on quarter over the last year. That's a tab that I can drill down in. I don't care about that right off the top. I care because somebody sent me here with usually where do you see this staying, or what the hell's going on with this? And I need to identify very quickly what I think is happening there. So that's that's this screen. But again, these are mostly tools that are geared towards a user that's watching. I mean, we look after 4 funds and a number of portfolios in the funds and different types of strategies. So everything from, highly manual, expert curated volatility arbitrage through all of our AI curated and directed strategies. And it's a different type of analysis for each. If you're laser focused on your portfolio, you've got like 10 to 30 holdings, you don't need half of this stuff. I mean, it's helpful to have obviously some visual representation of your concentration so that, if your portfolio is blowing up, you can immediately see that that is tied to an overweight in a specific area. So it's not you didn't pick poorly. This isn't like some horrible global mistake you made other than being over concentrated in a sector that's getting its face kicked in at the moment, right? So that's helpful for you to manage your reaction. And that's, I think, what's important to keep in mind when reviewing these type of tools.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that it's not like, retail investors are SOL if they don't have access to Bloomberg. I mean, what do you think are like, we talked about Benzinga Pro obviously, but what do you think are good other alternatives to, go in places you can get some of this information, and it might not be all available or as quick as the Bloomberg, but kind of, like a good alternative than if you don't have access to a Bloomberg seat?
I think you've got sort of 3 key tools that you could use. I would for sure advocate for Benzinga as a consolidated source. Okay, I like it. I think that's very close at a retail level to what you could expect in a portion of a Bloomberg terminal that would be meaningful to a retail trader or investor. Okay, so you have that. For deeper technical analysis, I would use something like TC2000, which we've showcased on this show before. It also has a news aggregator, but it's not as good as Bloomberg. And Bloomberg's news aggregator is fantastic, and the charting and technical isn't quite as good as TC2000. So I'd like have them up next to each other. But I think honestly, I never advocate for trading off of trader chat room chatter because it's just dangerous. You can be in a circumstance of the blind leading the blind, but if you are just starting out in trading, who are you talking to? I mean, if like all your friends don't trade all day long, and if you are sitting at home trying to do this and you have nobody to turn to, your cousin, uncle, father, best friend is not an institutional trader, does not work for a buy or sell side market participant. Like, who are you bouncing ideas off of? Who are you asking questions to? It can be a pretty lonely environment. I mean, like the CTO of Kaiju and I met in, okay, so it was a little more of a pro trader chat room, but it was still a chat room because we were both trading remotely, him prop trading and me institutionally trading. There's like nobody sitting next to me. You're craving this old school Wall Street thing that died off years before, people realize it did. Like those old school trade desk, trade floors are largely gone. Outside of institutions, remote work came in and was profitable and popular long before COVID. So you had these like satellite traders dotted all over the place, especially APAC. Like a lot of the guys who worked Hong Kong, Singapore were remote for the big banks that just didn't have a regional office. So who are you talking to all day long? You're going to a chat room to say, hey, I've seen this thing, or can someone tell me what they think about? And eventually, like you see people in the chat here talking to each other, right? There are a couple of these guys, gals who clearly know each other from this chat. Hey, how you doing? No, how are you doing? How was your Christmas? Yeah, good. This looks interesting. Yeah, I checked this out. That's like, you need some cohort that you somewhat trust to bounce things off of in the beginning. So, I mean, I always come down hard on retail chat rooms, but they serve a purpose. I'm going long XYZ 300 at whatever. Don't do that. right? Don't follow. That's not a good use, right? You follow it, you get burned, you're pissed at that guy. Why'd you listen to him in the first place? But just kicking around ideas or saying, this is the third time you've mentioned Bollinger Bands, and I don't know what those are. And then maybe the person kicks you a link to some educational resource. So you become a better informed trader. Like there's a use for that. So that would be my 3 panels, like a technical tool for evaluation. I'd have a news aggregator, and I would have some communication with the outside retail trading world. If you want, and obviously you have your broker platform there, but if you're using all of these other things, your broker platform is going to be like an order ticket entry window, right? It's just going to be that part. The rest of it will be like minimized. So that would be my take. If I didn't have a Bloomberg, I had to do it from scratch.
Well, there you have it. I mean, we've talked a lot about different, sources, where to get information, what information to look at, how to help you, consider which stocks to invest in. And Ryan, you're the AI guy. How does AI fit into all of this?
I think so. AI assisted tools for retail traders is for sure something that I know a number of outlets are building actively right now. The ones that have already come out aren't really AI. Those are just scams. So you can forget all of that. And while generative AI LLMs are great for pulling in enormous amounts of information, they're terrible at math. So you wouldn't want to ask ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, what are good stocks to trade? Please don't do that. How would I build an effective and profitable portfolio? Don't do that. We had fun with it when the first beta became publicly accessible. I asked, how do I replace my greedy vol arb traders? And it was like a 10-point list, and the first one was, first, you will need to become an expert in volatility arbitrage trading. Then you can fire this desk of lazy volatility arbitrage trader, blah, 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 blah. I did send that to them, and they thought it was funny. But the point being, there's no way it's going to do that. What you can do is try to scrape a lot of information using a tool like that. You can attempt, okay, so GPT, I want to know how many 13Fs for NVIDIA were filed in the last quarter where the top 10 market participants changed more than 20%. And it probably can return all of them. You can give it a time frame just to make sure. You can say in the last 4 years. So how many 13Fs you're going to get, right? 4 per year, and however many years you go back, that's how many you expect. So if it gives you 3, you know that it hasn't collected all the information. If it gives you what you think, you'll get the information, and tell me how many you found. Very useful for something like that. Very useful for you hear something that you think sounds realistic, sounds like it's from an untrusted source in a bit of a sketchy, venue, but it sounds right. You can task, something like GPT with finding any other references to this. Can you find me all of the references to the following piece of news and cite the sources? And then you'll look, and if it's just fringe, you know that this is some batshit conspiracy theory. But maybe there was something buried in FT. Maybe there's something buried in the Inquirer. Maybe there's something buried in, Economist. Why did I say Inquirer? Don't listen to that. Maybe there's something buried in a Bloomberg news feed, et cetera, where you can verify this thing that came from this sketchy source and actually act on it. So it's very useful for that. Unfortunately, on the side we work on, the predictive AI side, there's just nothing currently available. And that's something I hope that we can fix in the next couple of years.
Got it. And then, maybe just for people that are joining us for the first time on one of these educational series, can you talk a little bit about how Kaiju is using AI and what kind of, different types of things you're feeding into the AI to help it decide whether or not, hey, this is a dip we want to buy, or no, this is not a dip we want to buy?
You're right. Okay, so sort of 2 main disciplines of AI would be generative AI and predictive AI. What's the big difference? So there are no hard edges to the landscape of generative AI, right? I want this thing to create portraits of people. So I feed it 600,000 portraits, but I can't feed it all portraits because all portraits isn't something that is achievable. It's just like I want it to speak English. So I feed it, 20 million samples of the English language, but I can't feed it all samples. And so as a result, you get hallucinations, right? Mistakes that it believes is a correct answer that it feeds back to you. With predictive AI, which is what we do, it doesn't have the sex appeal on the surface that generative AI does because it can't speak English. There's no back and forth between you and the machine that mimics a human interaction.
Right.
But the output we find vastly more powerful because it uses known or collected at source data. Price, time, and quantity for any equity at the tick level is not up for discussion. It is what it is. It's printed to consolidated tape every day. We've ingested 220 terabytes of this. We ingest the stock market at the tick level. So again, historically uploaded and then collected at source. So the patterns that it sees can't be hallucinations in any way. There are hard edges to that landscape. And so its predictive capabilities, while not crystal ball-like, are pretty good. So we've been doing this for a little over half a decade now, and are now, the reason I'm here is that, we stopped kind of flying quietly under the radar like Renaissance Technologies because nobody's talking about this part of the business. And we wanted to try to, educate a little bit. Which I think we'll get into with our next series. This one was more about basic trading. The next one is sort of more about advanced management, and using some of these tools. So the criteria that it's looking for are repeating patterns that it reliably links to repeating behaviors, right? Every time I see this, or 8 out of 10 times, the following thing happens. And of course, because there's a machine learning component to it, as there are subtle micrometric changes to the criteria and the behaviors, that weighted list of endpoints that it evaluates changes over time. So maybe right now it's looking at 68 different factors weighted from here to here. But over time, it starts seeing that these top 3 or 4 that it used to totally depend on are less and less reliable and less linked with positive outcomes. These guys over here at the other end of the scale have started to, be more and more in the spotlight. It can autonomously make those adjustments, which is, the rewarding and cool part of working with predictive AI is once you've programmed it to do this and it does it well. Certainly like 6 years ago, we had instances of it not doing it well. And it was more horrifying to watch it drive off a cliff with a boat full of money. But thank God it stopped doing that like half a decade ago. And now it's just profitable. So we're hoping that like those will never get pushed out to an end user in a retail environment because you're then creating like a trade system that somebody else is following. What I hope is that the predictive element becomes available like GPT for a retail trader investor to query. I've seen this pattern. I want to trade XYZ in this direction. Here's my profit target. Here's my stop loss. What are my chances of success? And then, 2 billion calculations in 1 second later, you get a not very good. But if you did this, this, and this, and this, it increases to that. Like, I would love to see that available, those types of tools for, people like those who are watching this show.
Yeah, and I'm excited again next week to hop into a little bit more of that. I thought today we had some great lessons just in terms of where to go for that information, how to kind of sort through all this different noise. It is, I don't need to tell you guys out there in the audience, it is very overwhelming, especially for newer traders when you look at a screen, even like Benzinga, even like this from Benzinga Pro, which now that I'm on it every day, this looks like such a simple, easy layout, but I can see how something like this with so many different numbers, so many different things just seems like too much. And so this was a very important episode to learn how to kind of cut through that noise, how to use this information to take your trading to the next level. Because without the information, if you're just trading on your own off gut feeling or vibes, you're going to get burned. There's no way around it. And you need, to be able to have a systemic trading a system with this information. So Ryan, let's go ahead and pull up our kaiju kicker for the week. I'll start by reading the first one, and maybe you can add some extra color or walk me through them. But do use more than one news aggregator. They usually carry all the same news, but not always.
Yeah. So like we said before, with the Bloomberg versus Benzinga, I mean, again, 98% of the time it's the same, 2% it's not. That 2% repeatedly has been actionable for us. So it's worth having two. And it doesn't matter whether it's, again, I don't care what aggregators you use. I'm Bloomberg could probably be replaced with something else that is more meaningful on a retail level, more effectively for way less. So just like, don't just take what comes through the feed. Benzinga is fine for primary news aggregator. If you're going to commit serious dollars to this, check the source, which is number 2.
Yep. Do check sources. A rumor isn't always something you should be trading off of, nor is a post in a forum. For example, I'll let you add some color on this, but just yesterday on stock, ticker ON, was trading higher on like speculation that Tiger Woods was going to sign a partnership with it's like a sneaker company out of Switzerland that Roger Federer has backed. But there was rumors that Tiger was going to sign a deal with them instead, after he left Nike, and people were sharing it all over Twitter. The stock was up like 8-9% in the morning. And then their CEO had to say, no, we're not signing a deal with Tiger. And then the stock went back down. So if you were just trading this news based off these rumors on Twitter and other things, then you could have gotten burned on that.
Yeah, I mean, if you read any of the classic trading treatises, like you'll come across this phrase, buy the rumor, sell the news. Like that's an old trader phrase, but that's like long dead. That's before social media. That's where the rumor came from company insiders and institutional market participants, and the news came from a trusted news source. Now the rumor is coming from who the hell knows where. And then the news confirms or denies that rumor. So it's a lot more volatile and not as safe to do that.
100%. And then moving down, our kicker number 3, do not trade off tips shared on social media. We kind of just touched on that. Do not trade off tips shared in trading chat rooms. And yeah, I mean, you only need to get probably burned once or twice on stuff like this. And then you realize, I mean, I can't tell you how many times, Ryan, I've been in different chat rooms or whatnot, and someone's been like, oh, this, biotech company's about to get this approval after market today. Buy today or you're going to miss out on this move. And then the thing doesn't happen. And it feels like every time, the more certain people are on something happening or the more people get involved in it, it's like, I know this isn't going to end up working out because the market's not that easy. You're not going to have really these like get rich quick opportunities. Oh my God, there's this, hot tip, everyone buy. And, so that's definitely an important one, just to remember that even though some of these tips might look juicy on social media and chat rooms, a lot of times they don't end up panning out.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure like you probably have a ton of rules for this chat that's running right now. Some of the trading, like the actual trading chat rooms that are accessible to retail traders, will have rules like you can't post an exit if you haven't previously posted your entry, to stop people from being like, yep, just made a cool 100% return on XYZ. It's like you have to have previously in the chat said, I'm in at here and out at here to even post it, or you get blocked, muted, banned, etc. I'm positive if somebody started like pumping stocks and wild claims of their trading in here, they'd be gone pretty quickly. So, bear in mind that not all chat rooms are created equally, I guess is fair to say.
Yep. Always be careful where you get your information, including from ChatGPT, because I have had many times where ChatGPT has tried to tell me something as if it is a fact, and it is undeniably not a fact. And then I'll tell it, hey, ChatGPT, why'd you say this? When that's not true. And they'd say, oh, I'm sorry, you're correct, Mr. Aaron. So with that said, and that's not even with financial stuff. That's just with like, if I ever use ChatGPT for anything, I feel like it always makes at least one mistake. So with that
Have you
said,
ever had it contradict itself in the same response?
oh yeah, all the time. Yeah.
I can't remember. It was a while ago, but I think I asked it just for fun. I said, "Hey, ChatGPT, is Overstock a good company?" And it like the first part was like, Overstock is a good company because blah 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 blah. And then obviously it had found all of the Patrick Byrne nightmare scenario crap. It's like Overstock is not a good company because of, like that was its outcome. It was like, yes, wait, no, totally. I'm broken. And that's where it ended off. So yeah, please don't ask it what to trade. It doesn't know.
Yeah, not a good source for trading tips. Well, Ryan, we talked about a lot today. If you guys are watching and you want to go back and rewatch any of the parts, you will be able to do that on this YouTube video. And we kind of teased what we're talking about next week, but do you want to remind the folks what we will be getting into next Tuesday, same spot, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern?
We were originally going to talk about sort of a walk around the market, what market participants do, what direct market makers do, what lead market makers do, et cetera, et cetera. Then I thought, oh, God, do we really want to put people to sleep at that level? And is it completely meaningful to the retail trader and investor? So instead, I thought I would share like the 7 things that for sure I can correlate to increased performance in my career. That I think, and none of them require any institutional connectivity whatsoever. So I think that might be fun to close off by they're in areas that you wouldn't normally think they would be, but I can guarantee that they will make you a more effective trader and investor. No question.
Well, there you go. Ryan, again, Ryan Pannell from Kaiju. Where can folks go more if they want to learn more about Kaiju or if they want to invest in the DIP ETF?
Kaiju, the global companies are at kaiju.ai. Our AI directed asset management is at KCM, Kaiju Capital Management.ai. And DIP is at dipetf.com or kaijuetfadvisors.com, which is the advisor for the DIP ETF.
Well, there you go. All right, Ryan, we'll chat next week. Thanks again for hopping on. It was good to be back after a few weeks off. Good to see your face. Hope all is well. And again, next week, same place, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back getting into it.
Thanks, Aaron. It's good to see you, and I'll see everybody next week.
Let's go. All right, guys, 11:45 a.m. We've got about 15 more minutes left of the show. If you guys, of course, have any stocks, anything topics you'd like to talk about, drop them in the chat, and we should have some time. We do have another guest coming up. I've got my man Stephen Orr hanging out backstage. We're going to be talking some good topics. I know we might touch on the Boeing, United Airlines news. Talk about again, we're going to talk about some AI. So without further ado, first time guest on Benzinga Live. So we got a team, give him the very special Zinger Nation welcome. And then when we come back, we'll be talking with Mr. Orr. All right, Mr. Stephen Orr, how are you doing today? Welcome to Benzinga Live.
Thanks, Aaron. I appreciate that. As a former Benzinga employee, I love it. I'm here live from Davos, Switzerland at the beautiful Alpen Gold Hotel.
Nice. They have a big event out in Davos, right?
They sure do. It's always been a dream of mine to actually participate at the World Economic Forum. And this time around, they've asked me to speak. So I'm very excited to speak on AI.
Well, awesome. Yeah, before we get into that, why don't we, do you mind giving our audience, since you're a first-time guest, just a quick, brief introduction, who you are, what you do, and why these people in Davos care about you speaking there?
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. That's very true. Look, I am the CEO and founder of a new company called Quasar Markets. As you know, I helped build several financial platforms, and I wanted to build my own, one that I thought was very pertinent to both institutional traders as well as retail traders. And we did that. And we're going to go live February the 2nd at quasarmarkets.com. And what's interesting, Aaron, is I was just at the Benzinga conference in New York City, and we won the award for AI.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, this has been a very AI dominant episode of Benzinga Live. It's been a very AI dominant past year in the markets. You can't tell the story of 2023's bull market. Q's up over 40% without, of course, talking about AI and the driver that was for major companies like Nvidia, like Meta, like Microsoft. So let's, what are you
But
going
you
to
know
be?
what, Aaron? You know what's interesting is 7 years ago when I first started talking about AI, people thought I was crazy, right? And today it's in our lives every day. And I think two of the things we need to worry about is how pertinent is in our life, how do we use it, and the second thing is it something that we have a secure issue around it, right? People are worried about Terminator 2 coming out, and I don't think that's the case, right? I think we need to understand AI as how we apply it to trading and how we, and I think I heard from Ryan Pannell, your previous guest was talking about AI, don't use ChatGPT. He's 100% correct. But what if I could take ChatGPT, OpenAI, and other ones like Anthropic and actually attach those to actual databases like Edgar and Fred and get much better data, much more pertinent data, and definitely things that are up to date as opposed to something that's a couple of years old?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where we're at now for a lot of people that are familiar with AI is what the public is seeing with ChatGPT. Sure, all that stuff's great, and it's a testament to our innovation and technology. But it's really the whole thing with AI is how it's going to get progressively better, and the thing like smart people like yourself, are going to learn how to use these tools, connect them to databases, and make them more useful than they were before. And we're just kind of go, it's not like it's going to stop. It's not like the progress is going to stop. It's not like these things are going to, not become more useful over time. Of course, whatever problems ChatGPT has today, they're probably not going to have 5 years from now. There's probably going to be some other problems that will still have to be ironed out, but it's going to continue to progressively get better. Can you talk a little bit about some of the specific topics within like rebuilding trust that you're going to be talking about in Davos?
Yeah, you're right. Davos's theme this year is rebuilding trust and transparency. And I think considering all the things that happened at FTX and with SBF, and of course with Poing, trust is important, especially in the finance world, right? When you have lots of money on the line, trust is probably the number one thing that we have today, right? I mean, we make brokers go through tests, we make them have a background checks. So why not have that in the crypto space too as well? I also think that when you're looking at trust and transparency here, they have brought a lot of people here, and for the first time in WEF, we call it WEF here. The first time at WEF, they're talking about equality, and I think that's unbelievably awesome, right? Where you're talking about equality within women and genders, and we're looking at color. I think that is awesome stuff, right? You're finally getting rid of all of us old white guys and kind of bringing in some better quality people. I think in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean that's you're living a dream of mine. I hope someday I get to go to Davos too, Stephen, and check it
Hey,
out.
I'll be here next year if you want to come, Aaron.
I
Be my guest with me.
would love to. What about with I know that you were slightly impacted by the plane news over the weekend between Boeing and United Airlines. Do you have any hot takes there? Were you trading these stocks? What happened?
Yeah, it's a fair point. I had a Boeing 737 Max. It's flying from Tampa to Newark, Newark over to here in Zurich. We're in Davos, a little south of Zurich. Yeah, Boeing sent me a text says, "Hey, due to the problems, the FAA has grounded us, and we have a problem." And so my wife, God bless her, was out running around trying to get new plane tickets for us so we can get over here as fast as possible, and it worked out. But you know what's interesting? I think the FAA did the right thing, grounding the planes. We didn't know what was wrong. And Boeing has had some serious problems. When you look at all of the things surrounding Boeing, whether that's the plane itself or how we're using it, because they're replacing a lot of the Airbuses at Boeing. And of course, I was on United Airlines. So United Airlines uses it all the time, right? And so they had to actually take a lot of planes off of the tarmacs and put in Airbuses. So that's a big deal. And I said flat out, the first thing we should be doing is shorting Boeing stock. But I said that right on Friday, I said, you know what? I think probably this buy the dip mentality has been right in play, and it happened right today. Obviously, and yesterday, people were buying the dip on Boeing. I don't think that's the case. And I think Boeing has got more problems to work through. I don't think that the FAA and the Department of Transportation is going to be so easy on them. The one thing I noticed about Boeing on this one is the whole world stopped the planes very quickly. That's not normal, right? Usually they let the FAA administrators make some decisions. This time, every government just said no. That's to me is the first.
Yeah, and I mean, it might help, or it might make sense, I guess, that they would do that considering the same. I don't know if it was the exact same model because I know it was like the Boeing 747 Max 9 was the one where this door flew off. But of course, a few years ago, right before the COVID pandemic, the 747 Max had two major crashes that grounded. They had to ground the plane for like a whole year while they figured out the problems with it. So now that they're having more problems with the same model, or at least the same, type of model, it might make sense that they're like, all right, hold on, let's just stop everything and figure out what's going on. But
Yeah,
like you
and
said,
that model only had little problems, right? This model had a door blowout. I mean, and people were on the plane when it happened. So that's the first thing that the administrator has to look at is there any safety and health issues when it comes to flying? It is literally the safest way of travel, right? We know that, safer than cars. But when a door blows out, a door not even supposed to be there, that's a massive problem to me. And I think that's also going to affect United stock as well. But I did watch the CEO come out, and I think they did a pretty good job explaining the issue here, that there are a few nuts and bolts that are tightened down. I don't think that's the case. I think there's more to it than just that, but we'll see. But I will say this much: Boeing is a great company. It'll be around for many, many years, even after we're gone, producing planes, and hopefully better than the ones they're producing now, and safer. But I will say this much. Look, they've been producing planes for over 150 years. This isn't going to be anything different. I think we're okay.
I think Boeing will be okay in the long run too. There'll probably be some more shakeout from this. I got a quick note from our very own Benzinga's Patrick Lane. Told me to tell you hi. Oh, here he is. He might want to come say
Patrick!
hi to himself. Patrick, you got to come around to this microphone. I'll send it over to you. Here you go. Put these on to hear him.
You know what sucks, Steve? It sucks being a chubby guy trying to get behind a desk. It's really not fun.
I just did that, Patrick.
It's not fun, man. It's not fun. You know what? I love you, Steve Orr. I love what you're building over there. And I heard that my guy Bree was talking to you, and I just had to come over and say, hey.
I appreciate that. I think one of the things that I'm very proud of to say that on my resume, former senior vice president of Benzinga, let me tell you, I'm very, very, very proud of you, Patrick, and the team that you built at Benzinga. You guys have done a great job. I think you guys, I was just with you in New York, right, at the Benzinga conference. And
that's right.
I tell you, there wasn't enough I could say good about Benzinga. Everything was great. I love that.
Thank you. We had a good time with you guys.
We'll talk about the other stuff, but one of the things that when I'm building Quasar Markets was to be able to integrate all that. Other companies that are doing good stuff out there and being able to put them into a place that everybody can see that, right? And I wanted to do that. The world of fintech is very fragmented, and I think that's one thing Benzinga has done a very good job, right? You guys have brought the news in, you brought events in, and you brought a platform, and that's good stuff. And that's what people need to understand is that the world of finance isn't all bad. All we ever see is the SBFs of the world, right? You see that in the news. But when people like you guys are bringing good things out and showing good people that are, 95% of the world of fintech is actually good people. It's just only when we see the people that are doing the bad things.
Saying that, I really appreciate you saying it because it's our mission, right? We know there's so many different things in the news cycle that we all hear about, but the world of finance, the world of fintech, there's a lot of innovation happening. You guys are doing it. We're trying to help. We're trying to shine the spotlight on the world moving behind the scenes, right?
Yes.
And it's really cool to see what you've built too, man. So hello again.
It's interesting when you watch the news and you see all these bad things happening in the world. And sometimes I've seen Benzinga live, and some of the good things that makes me happy, right? The social aspect of all this is even better. Your previous guest was talking about don't listen to things in the chat GPT and all that. He's totally right? But when you have good things coming together and the ecosystem coming together like yourself and ours, look, that is what makes a much better trader, a better informed trader, better experienced, and actually in the long run makes more money, which is the whole key of what we're doing.
Amen to that. Wouldn't be the same if that wasn't the goal. I'll pass it back to Mr. Bree. Mr. Orr, it's good to see you, sir. Later, man.
Thanks, Patrick.
Of course.
All right, well, that was a fun little surprise. I got to see Mr. Lane here on Benzinga Live, maybe for the first time ever.
I think it's the Lane brothers, right? And his brother too, doing cannabis, right?
Yeah, Elliot is Elliot's still with us, but he's not in the office right now. All right, well, Steven, I guess let's before we wrap, got 2 more minutes left. Tell me a little bit more about Quasar and what you guys are doing, and what should we expect when this thing goes live in less than a month now?
Yeah, we go live February 2nd, quasarmarkets.com. One of the things that we wanted to do is the world of fintech, as I said earlier, is very fragmented, right? There's little pieces, there's charting companies, and there's news companies. What if I could put that all in one space, into one place for very cheap, for $14.99 a month? And you can buy the news you want. And your previous guest was talking about that, right? You need more than one news source. We got several news sources. You let the user decide. And I think that's the key to any platform is personalization. And I wanted to create a platform. I wanted to really create the Amazon of finance, where anything and everything was actually in the platform. A place where it didn't matter if you used Fidelity or E-Trade, or you use this type charting or that type charting, it'll all be in there and you make the decision. We also built it on Web3, so there's no need for a web app. There's no need, and it's real quick. You can move things around very easily. You can watch TV. We'll put Benzinga live in our platform. I think that's exciting too. Look, there's a lot of things that we're going to do, and I think February 2nd is we're going to release the whole thing, including the AI side of that. We have an institutional AI as well as a retail AI, where you can literally follow along with all of the users and find out what people are asking. When you're using ChatGPT or OpenAI, it's just a one-on-one. But what if I could see what everybody's talking about on AI? We could get a much clearer picture of what the user is thinking and what eventually what the investor is buying.
Well, there you go. Yeah, I'll go ahead and drop the link in the chat for folks that want to check out more. And then again, less than a month away. So, Steven, once this thing is live, we might have to have you back on and walk us through it and see, what the buzz is all about.
I would be happy to do that, Aaron. I appreciate it, and thank you so much for having me on the show here.
Of course, enjoy Davos, enjoy Switzerland. I don't know what I don't know. I'm thinking like Swiss Miss hot chocolate right now, so maybe have a nice hot chocolate. I know they have a good chocolate there, right? Yeah, so maybe eat some chocolate for me. Bring some back if you're flying on a plane that's not a 747. If it is, then don't bring it on. I don't want you to bring on any extra weight than what's already on the plane. We don't need to cause any more problems for it.
I agree. One thing that we're looking to do here in Switzerland is go down to Zermatt. I wanted to go see for my 50th birthday. I wanted to go see the Matterhorn, so we're going to go see the Matterhorn as well and go hang out with some friends too as well.
Awesome. That sounds like a great early 50th birthday treat right there, Steven. So again, enjoy your time. Hit me up when you're back. We'll connect another time for you to come on. And yeah, congrats on the speaking gig at the WEF, as you call it. That's huge. That's big time.
Thank you very much, Aaron.
Of course. All right, guys, that was Steven Orr again, founder of Quasar. Going to go ahead and drop that link in the chat if you guys want to go check out more. Scheduled to go live in less than a month. All right, y'all. It is 12:01 p.m. Eastern. It is now after the afternoon, so I can say good afternoon. With that, we're going to go wrap up on Benzinga Live. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. Please smash the like if you have not already. No show on Thursday. We'll be doing a webinar instead, but you might still get to see me on there a little bit. We'll see. We'll be back next Tuesday, though, 11 a.m. Eastern, same place, same time. I'm going to be back on with Ryan Pannell, continuing our Kaiju educational series. So till then, stay green, happy trading, and we'll chat soon.